Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. We barely gave you time to run down the hall and grab a glass of water, so we appreciate you joining. We have a special presentation today, and as we formed the agenda for this, we realized that part of the economic recovery for the province was really to talk about some of the leading edge companies. And where they are specifically related to helping us bridge that gap between the pandemic and the full economic recovery. So we have a presentation coming up. I'm pleased to introduce an old friend, Ken Hughes, who's the chairman of the board for Providence Therapeutics. Many of you have seen Providence in the news lately about their vaccine candidate that's in development. In the end of the minister's session, we talked about senior leadership and talent in the life sciences sector. And Mr. Hughes actually epitomizes the type of senior leadership and business acumen we want to bring into life sciences and that exists in life sciences. Ken has a deep business experience in life sciences, in financials, insurance, risk management, in technology, in the energy sector, and as important as anything else, in health and in public service. He's been elected, he's been an MP, a minister, a parliamentary secretary, and has just brings a tremendous amount of experience, not only to Providence, but to our sector as well. I'm going to leave it at that and turn it over to Ken. Please help me welcome Ken Hughes.
Thank you very much, Rob, and I'm really delighted to be here with you and with BioAlberta. I think it's a really pivotal time in the history of our province, obviously, and of the industry. It was Louis Pasteur that is often quoted as saying that fortune favors the prepared mind. And I think we're at a pivotal time here in Alberta where fortune has the opportunity to favor a lot of prepared minds in our province. We have immense talent, a very young population, a lot of people working away. I don't think it's any accident that two of the leading candidates for vaccines in Canada emerge out of Alberta. And that's partly the entrepreneurial capacity of the province, but it's also the very deep medical and scientific community that we have in the province at the universities and outside of the universities. I'd like to share with you a bit of background on Providence Therapeutics. Providence is a company that was established in 2015 by Brad Sorensen, who lives in Calgary with his family. A couple of years earlier, he had helped found a company called Arcturus, which is now in San Diego, was in San Diego then, and is now on the NASDAQ. And within weeks of that, one of his sons was diagnosed with GBM, with brain cancer. And Brad obviously responded to that challenge, drawing upon all of the science that he could find. And also that led him to founding Providence Therapeutics to try and find a way to go after cancer. He founded the company in 2015. Landed at the end of a process of evolution at working with messenger RNA, and I met him about 4 years ago, and my wife and I agreed to throw in with him, put some capital in. We were of the view that, this could go one of two ways. It could go really well, or it could go very badly. And we were fully prepared to lose our whole investment if that is what the result was, in part because, almost entirely because it would advance the cause of the science of going after cancer with innovative approaches. We have, and at the time that I met Brad, it was clear to me, and we had the conversation, it was clear to me he wasn't just looking for investors, he was looking for fellow travelers, for people who would work with them, as I was prepared to do, throw in some time and commitment to try and advance the cause of a vaccine against cancer. No family has been untouched. And so it's out of that experience, out of my experience as chair of Alberta Health Services, as the founding chair, that this is a big challenge that may be solvable within our lifetime, or at least manageable within our lifetime. So we did a lot of work with the Scientific Advisory Board, which is headed by Pamela Ohashi at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center in Toronto. One of Brad's strengths in life is pulling together very talented people. Our chief scientific officer is based in San Francisco, and a lot of our team is in Toronto. Our core leadership team, Brad and myself as chair, are in Calgary, and we're establishing an even stronger base in Calgary now. And you know, it's not a straight line. It's a very weavy, windy road. Last a year ago, if you talked to us a little over a year ago, January a year ago, we were preparing for clinical trials in Toronto for ovarian cancer, using messenger RNA as a mechanism to go after stimulating the immune system to destroy cancer, destroy cell material. And we thought we had a pretty good plan laid out, and we would be into clinical trials in 2020. Then COVID hit. And at that point, it was clear to us that we were not going to be able to do any clinical trials, first of all. Secondly, we recognized that there was an opportunity to use messenger RNA, having seen what Moderna and BioNTech were doing, that there was an opportunity to use messenger RNA to pursue a vaccine for COVID. Well, it works. That's perhaps one of the great outcomes of COVID, amongst all of the tragedy and the loss and the trauma and the disruption to people's lives. One of the very positive things that's come out of this is that messenger RNA has been validated as a platform for vaccines, and it's been used in millions of people and proven to be safe and efficacious. And so that's a great gift to humankind. I do think we're at a pivot point, at an inflection point in the history of vaccines in particular, that, you know, nearly as important as the time of Louis Pasteur, when he was an advocate of the germ theory of disease and determined that fermentation was created by organisms. These are important developments in history and important inflection points that then lead to the widening of huge opportunity to make a difference. If you listen to Bill Gates, messenger RNA is a platform that can be used for a wide range of applications, and I completely agree with that. We have developed a COVID vaccine. We did so within weeks of making a decision last March to do that. We have actually since then developed in recent months, developed a vaccine for one of the variants, the South African variant of COVID, or coronavirus. And we see that there is a tremendous opportunity to develop this in Canada, to manufacture it in Canada, to be the masters of our own houses, to pursue independence, strategic independence from the rest of the world, and be able to respond to variants as they emerge, because clearly this is evolving into a pandemic that is perhaps has a long tail, with endemic coronavirus in the community for a very long time, with emerging variants coming at us around the edges of the vaccines that do work. And so we need our own capacity. And if there's one message I have today for governments, and we're conveying this, and I would encourage others to do the same, is this is the time, this is the pivot point to step up as a nation and invest in our own talent. It takes us nowhere to invite a company to come into central Canada or wherever and set up a branch plant to manufacture vaccines. Does nothing for us long haul. Short term, sure, it creates a lot of vaccines. Long haul, nothing. We need to invest in our own talent, and there's plenty of it in Canada. We need to support the scientific and medical and entrepreneurial community in this country that can deliver against the challenges of that we face and the opportunities that we have to create vaccines that work, not just in Canada, but around the world. We have that capacity. We've been lax. We have given up on maintaining strategic capacity in this country, and it's time to turn that around. Providence is one of a handful of companies across the country that has very promising science, very promising evidence. You'll hear from John Lewis of Entos tomorrow, another promising candidate out of the U of A, the other Alberta candidate. This is the time where Alberta as a province and Canada as a country need to invest in these vaccines and the capacity to build around them, because we actually can do what we need to do to make Canadians safer for the long haul. We've had very good results in clinical trials. So far, our phase 1 clinical trials will report out in April, and we're on track with a phase 2, phase 3 clinical trial to seek authorization by Health Canada by the fall, October being the target. That's where we're at as a company. It's a challenging story. It's not for the faint of heart. It's been a lot of difficult challenges along the way, but I'm confident that we're on a very constructive path, and that there will be others as well in Canada who can be on an equally or nearly equally constructive path to helping us have the strategic capacity to look after our own interests as a nation and contribute to the global capacity for vaccine development. With that, Rob, I'll turn it over to questions, and happy to have this conversation with members of the community in Alberta.
All right, thanks, Ken, for that presentation and overview. So as your questions come in, please put them in the chat, and we'll deliver them to Ken for discussion. While we're waiting for some of the questions to come in, Ken, I think I'd like you to maybe comment on one of the things that we see when we talk to various members is that the acceleration of the vaccine development and the approval process, the regulatory process, we're probably in an unprecedented time for how fast people have gone from idea to approval. I'm not sure if you're in a position to talk about this yet, but one of the things we're hearing from members is that there's we forget that there's the necessity to actually build those facilities and the capital restrictions of delays to get equipment in, just the regular procurement process, or even an accelerated procurement process to actually construct and provision a facility. What's been Providence's experience on addressing some of those challenges?
Well, it's a great question, Rob, and it's a really important question. At the core of this, you not only have to have a vaccine that works, you actually have to be able to develop enough of it in order to actually deliver it to people. And the supply chain is really choked internationally. So what we have done as a strategy is we have helped a company start up in Calgary called Northern RNA, and co-located in a building with Providence that will be able to, and the goal for Northern RNA is within a year or so to be completely self-sufficient. So we're no longer depending upon a supply chain from China, Switzerland, or the US to help manufacture messenger RNA vaccines. We're actually doing that here in Canada. Can't do that today. Anything we do in this calendar year, 2021, needs to draw upon those international supply chains. But the sooner we get away from that, the better. And that is what we are doing, is we are building that capacity, exactly that capacity to move away from that. And along the way, we'll be able to support others who need lipids or materials for DNA or messenger RNA or RNA in general. Northern RNA will be in a position to manufacture and supply the industry in Canada and based right in Alberta.
Excellent, thanks for that. Let me ask you a question as an investor then. So you talked about the decision to invest in the company, and that is, it sounds like very much it was a personal decision, a passionate decision on fighting a disease like cancer, and I congratulate you for stepping in and helping out with that void. What are some of the things that you looked at as an investor to do due diligence, and can you talk a little bit about the transition from the sectors that you've been involved in to a small molecule to a small molecule environment, and how did you take that jump?
Well, anytime you're investing, there are two or three things that are really important. One is the people, and you invest in people. And secondly, what is the idea? What is the concept? Is it sound? Can that be tested? Sometimes you actually invest a little bit on faith as well, because you know that this is going to be a very difficult path to pursue. You mitigate risk as much as possible by what you know or who you know that can help validate whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. But what we need in Canada, and believe me, we looked around to try and find people. There aren't a lot of people in Canada who are investing in this space, and there are even fewer who feel comfortable investing in it, in part because they have difficulty validating whether something is real, whether it's going to deliver, what the time frame is, all that kind of stuff. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is. I think sometimes people need to be prepared to invest purposefully, which is what we did from our family's perspective, which is there's a goal here. We trust the people that we're investing with. We believe that this has promise, and we also recognize that it's not going to be an easy road, and it's not a straight line from point A to B. It's a battle, and it's been a battle.
Thanks for that perspective. Question from the floor. Does the aim to have the majority of Canadians in the world vaccinated against COVID interfere with the province's ability to conduct clinical trials that rely on individuals that have not been vaccinated against COVID?
Really interesting question. It's actually a bit of it is an ethical question at core, is whether or not you can actually provide people with, not provide people with a vaccine when there is one available. Let's put it that way. And there are ways to do it. What we're looking at is doing what the European regulators have already approved, what the FDA has already said that they would do, and that the case will have to be made before Health Canada, which is that you make the case for a comparative study. It's no worse than or similar in efficacy to candidate A, whether that's Moderna or BioNTech, Pfizer, because we're all using messenger RNA, the messenger RNA platform. I'm actually impressed by the regulatory process that Health Canada has got in place. They seem to be really on their game. It was a couple of weeks. Their commitment was that they would give us a couple of week window in order to approve our phase 1 clinical trials. They did that in December. They understand messenger RNA because they've seen it from Moderna. They were approving Moderna at the same time. They've seen it from BioNTech. This is not new to them. And so I think what we'll see right across the board is that for new vaccine candidates on platforms like messenger RNA, we will see a fairly flexible and shorter term approval process because the platform itself has been validated, and you're not changing a lot when you're changing the messenger RNA.
Thanks for that. And it speaks to the clinical trial capacity that we have in this province as an infrastructure we can be proud of, but the network that they create across North America and even globally to be able to address these challenges. The final question coming in from the floor, and any other questions, as I said in the earlier sessions, we'll get responses back to people in some form. But here's a great question to end. How important, and with you being an MP and parliamentary secretary, an elected official and MLA and minister, how important is coordination between the federal and provincial governments to advance the research and manufacturing capability in the province and country? And the second part, what should the life science ecosystem, including BioAlberta, be doing to help that coordination?
Well, it's a really good question. I think we're trying to address issues that are way more important than what little old Alberta can deal with or little old Canada can deal with. In order to punch above our weight as a nation, we need everybody at the table doing their bit. And what I see happening is that's beginning to come together. Last summer, the received wisdom of the vaccine task force was that we didn't have this capacity in Canada, so we had to buy vaccines offshore. And so the net result is the government of Canada did that, and that we're going to apparently, and I believe this, we're going to have plenty of vaccines this summer. But what we don't have yet completely is the capacity to pivot and respond to challenges from the emerging variants or another pandemic of another kind, another source. So that is where Alberta and Canada can work well together. And I have every indication from what I can see that they are working well together, and that when Alberta, and Alberta's on the pointy end of the stick in terms of actually trying to provide support with companies that are based in Alberta. But I have reason to believe that Canada will be there. It's taken some time to kind of penetrate the bubble, because this is a tough time to be in public life. I can't imagine how difficult it is to serve in public life today and try and achieve the objectives that you've got. But I think I see evidence of a lot of collaboration, a lot of goodwill, and we need every bit of goodwill we can get, because what we're trying to do and the ability that we have as Albertans and Canadians is immense. But we need the backing, we need the support, we need Canadians to buy the product and to support the development in whatever way that they can. And I see that coming. But in the BioAlberta community, I encourage you to encourage people to keep the eye on the ball, to keep focused on that, to keep the investment coming, to demand more if we don't see enough. And I think that's the best gift that you as a leader of this community can do, is to keep active on that, keep going. I thought it would, as somebody who served in both federal and provincial public life and as chair of AHS, I thought it would be self-evident that we might need to invest for the longer haul, last summer. It wasn't. We had to fight to get the attention of people to to get to the point where we are today. So take nothing for granted, work hard, be strategic, help Canada and Alberta achieve their strategic capacity and deliver on the promise that we all have, because we can do it in Canada.
Those are great words to end on. I was going to ask you what's tougher, being the chair of a biotech company or being chair of AHS. We'll save that for another day. On behalf of our members and the people who are participating in this forum today, I want to thank you for your time and your presentation. As someone whose mother was vaccinated first dose yesterday, I can speak to kind of that relief and that, just to know that there's that light coming at the end of the tunnel, and to know that there's companies like you out there that are trying to accelerate that path and start to build for the next ones. It's really a great thing to see, and we're really proud of it. I wish you and Entos equal luck in your journey over the next the coming months. So thank you for that. That's it for this session, everybody. Thank you very much. We will come back in just a couple short minutes for panel 2 on building innovation in the health system.